This episode of Arch Rivalz is brought to you by The Garden, Real Estate and Retirement Properties. Hey, that doesn't sound so crazy. All right, roll clip. Are you exhausted from a long day of killing half of all life in the universe? Come on down to The Garden for a good old-fashioned dose of relaxation and farming pointy vegetables. Because you deserve it, and they should be grateful. That's The Garden, Real Estate and Retirement Properties. We'll leave the light on for you. Killing half of all... You know what? It's better than Acme Escorts. Hey, I am Groot with ArchRivals.rat. Today, I'm going to attempt to explain why time travel makes sense in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kind of. Now, I've heard a lot of questionings going on this thing called the internet. So I'd like to bring a little closure to some of you, and or confuse you more. Dealer's choice. But first, a quick history. Time travel, creating plot holes in film since 1921. Though some people would tell you that H.G. Wells kicked off the time travel genre with the Chronic Argonauts in 1888, while others would say, I don't know what an H.G. Wells is. I blame the public school system. Others cite The Time Machine, another yarn spun by H.G.W. as the most memorable work of sci-fi literature from the 1800s. Mark Twain drops a doozy with his 1889 comedy titled A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, where an engineer finds himself in the heart of the Gilded Era due to a blow to his noggin, crowbar style. Because explaining time travel sucks. A silent film of the same name hit the cinema in 1921. But it wouldn't be till 1960 that a time travel-based movie would win itself an Oscar, with George Pal's adaptation of The Time Machine taking home the award for Best Visual Effects. Oh, boring. Okay, moving on. Yay. But first I'd like to explain that there are generally three principles of time travel within cinema, for the most part. Number 1, the time loop. Essentially, this is the science fiction version of Destiny. Imagine going back in time to prevent an event from happening, only to end up being the one who causes it. You see how that works? Relevance, please. This pertains to situations that occur in the MCU prior to Endgame, that later come to fruition later on after their Ocean's 11 style time heist. That plus Doctor Strange's Time Rock 14,605 Jibba Jabba Seizure Ray vision of the futures indicates that this outcome was always going to be part of some timeline, the goal being to make it their timeline? Is it? I'm asking. Number 2, alternate realities. This is the safest way to write a science fiction time travel story. This way nothing your characters do have any effect on what has already become canon. Prof.hulk explained it very well, stating, if you go into the past, that past becomes your future, and your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future. Exactly. Number 3, the butterfly effect. The idea that changing your past can manipulate your timeline's present and future. These storytellers chose to mix in the notions of numbers 1 and 2, completely ignoring number 3, even making jabs at Back to the Future being bullshit. Well played, theoretical physics. Let's take a look at an example of the time loop in Avengers Endgame, which should explain this whole Captain America situation? I don't know about that, but it would appear that Steve Rogers is responsible for Scott Lang being Ant-Man and putting forth all these scenarios into play, resulting in the discovery of time travel. There, I said it. You see, when Cap and Iron Man went back to the 70s, Steve's mission was to steal Pym Particle. Now, fall backward a little, and you might remember at the beginning of Ant-Man, we got a flashback of Hank accusing everyone, including Howard Stark, of trying to steal his technology. What do you think? Is Hank just being paranoid? Or did the mission at Camp Lehigh give Dr. Pym serious trust issues, long before the events of Endgame ever even occurred? If you remember, Howard Stark left the facilities moments after the Great Pym Particle piracy of the 1970s, which I would imagine makes Howard Stark a suspect in Hank's eye. Meanwhile, Iron Man's standing outside, chatting up his dad, and he tells him, no amount of money has ever bought a second of time. Which is something that Howard told Tony when he was a boy, and before Bucky murdered Howard. Yet it would appear that Howard has never heard this saying before, learning it from Tony at that moment, so that he may bestow the exact same wisdom upon his unborn son, Tony, only for Tony to grow up, go back in time, and tell his father this pearl of wisdom, completing the time loop. A bootstrap, baby. Later on, Steve volunteers to go back in time and return the Infinity Nugs, however long that took him. And in being the one Steve Rogers in an infinite universe to do so, he completed the ultimate time loop, being the super sneaky Avenger to live in secret, watching events unfold as you remember them, knowing it all leads back to that moment. It had to be America's ass to pull that off. Our America's ass. The one that we watch in our reality as a movie, except Nope, I'm not buying it. It doesn't add up. Look, I can forgive Peggy Carter's scene in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, given her Alzheimer's, but I cannot overlook Agent 13 making out with Uncle Steve, who she would know, given how close she claimed to be with her Aunt Peggy, gave her first thigh holster and all. If it was the same timeline, damn it! What about the shield? I just want to talk about the shield. Thanos full-on destroyed Cap's shield in the final battle of Endgame. He didn't get another one. And we know that it's the same shield from the previous movie, because when Tony joined the Time Squad, he'd mentioned that his father Howard made the iconic war propaganda specifically for Steve. Captain Rogers' quantum leap consisted of a briefcase full of Infinity Stones and a Thor hammer, which already raises too many questions for one video. So where did Old Man Rogers get the shield that he regifts to Falcon at the end of the movie? The only time we saw a second shield was in the Captain America vs. Captain America fight that takes place in the new 2012 Battle of New York timeline. Hopefully our Captain America didn't rob an alternate version of himself. They already mucked that timeline way the hell up. Alternate realities? Damn right. Have you met Nebula? Because she has. Then, she straight up puts a hole in the chest of her past self, killing the crap out of her own retro doppelganger. Don't let Marty McFly try to pull that off. That's how those butterfly effect-driven time travel story characters get snapped. Right there. Grandfather paradox? Get out of here. You just can't exist long enough to kill yourself if you've killed yourself. Yeah, that checks out. Quick shots! Contradiction edition. They imply heavily that the Infinity Stone's removal from a reality changes it drastically and causes branch timelines to occur. But I can imagine their sheer presence in the past provides time displacement, resulting in an alternate reality the moment they touch down. Would you like some proof? Hi, Loki taking the Tesseract? Remember that? Glowing cube, Loki, poof? That wasn't there before. Or how's about two Hulks smashing around when there should only be one? This creates an alternate reality, right? No. Wait. A shot number 2. How does it all work? They did a bang-up job keeping the details vague enough to simply say, "You're not smart enough to understand." But don't worry, neither are most of the characters in the movie. They make it a point to show us that off-world characters like Nebula and Ebony Maw have a much better understanding, or at least the concept of time travel. The whole thing was Ant-Man's idea for Pym's sake, and he has no clue how it works. Yet Thanos isn't even rattled by the idea of time travel. Ebony Maw reverse engineers Pym particles in like 2 minutes. It doesn't even blow their minds. They're like, oh, that's cool. Rocket said it best when he told Tony, "You're only a genius on Earth, pal." Outside of our planet, this type of physics appears to be elementary. I mean, the in-universe laws would even indicate that going back to the same place twice is impossible, right? Oh, but they easily explain that away with Tony's time-space GPS gizmos. But hey, let's talk about the Ancient One. I just want to talk about the Ancient One. She's used the Time Stone to see multiple futures of multiple realities, all ending in her death being her limited vision. But she seems very taken off guard by her interaction with Professor Hulk over here, kind of implying that it's something she's never seen before. Dare I say, alternate reality that wasn't there before? Shot number 3, oh snap! The problem with OP. Is Captain Marvel overpowered or not? They really do pick and choose when and how to utilize her. And the strength of her abilities differ like a constantly shifting plot device. I believe the Kree translation for her abilities is pronounced Deus Ex Machina. Any scene in any movie can catch a cameo from Danvers, depending on how well it moves the storyline forward. Sometimes it feels like they just shoehorn Carol into the film because she's awesome, but then after that, they don't really know what to do with her. So they send her off camera to engage in some glorious battle. One of these Cosmic Carol throwdowns I've heard so much about that I would really like to see. Is she a tough tootin' baby? Captain Vers is not just ridiculously strong, she's also stupid fast. She can fly an entire exhausted, starved, and all but dead Tony Stark 1,000 light years to the nearest 7-Eleven before he runs out of oxygen, but can't get the Stark Tech brand Infinity Mitten to Manny's van before somebody chucks something at it. What else? What else? Well, we get to cheat death with an alternate reality Gamora. Now we can will they, won't they, Sam and Diane cheer-style romance with Star Munch all over again. And only one can imagine what Ronan did with the Power Stone after Cap returned it, given that there was no longer a Thanos in that reality to become the big bad. Not to mention, without the power of friendship, Peter Quill most likely ended up being a battery for Ego's expansion. Eventually, Ronan's genocide of the Xandarians is amateur hour compared to Ego killing every planet and rebirthing it as himself. That timeline is so screwed. I'm assuming Galactus would eventually make his way around the universe, consuming all the egos like a cosmic Pac-Man. But hey, I'm getting off topic with let's wrap this video the F up now. The truth is, time travel is incredibly hard to write and frustrating. The writers and directors of this beautiful cluster curmudgeon can't even agree on the semantics of how time travel operates in Marvel Universe 199999. Avengers Endgame, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, was a bold move and a rigorous task. I, for one, believe it was pulled off very well. And by mixing in elements of the time loop and an alternate reality, they were able to write a cohesive story without compromising past events and allowing them to incorporate stories full circle, as well as giving us something to talk about. Hello, John Q. Public here. So probably just shut up and enjoy the movie, you dick. On that note, you can take the tip of your finger and caress it ever so softly over that like button, or even that subscribe icon. You can even put words in the section below me, it really doesn't matter. I don't know how to read. Now you know everything. In these times of hardship, just remember, that's what the bunnies do.